I'm Mike J in your foxhole till I have a seat spin. Sit a pretty ass in this Benz behind a dark tent. You in the presence of extravagance. Settle down, Cuban link chillin'. Freezing on my textile, watch match my sentiments. How could you slumber like I gave you number coke in these quotes? Like I'm running numbers, styling with the Jews. Shot slam, Holocaust, busy chasing money, no time for the blues.
Yo, what's up, YouTube? Thank you for tuning in to the Viewturistic YouTube channel once again. Today we are doing Viewology episode number 10. It's called Surviving the Quarter Life Crisis. Now, I know a lot of you have heard about the midlife crisis, and that usually happens when people reach their middle ages, about 40, 50 years old, and they start to reflect on their lives, and they're thinking like, damn, where did my life go? I only have X amount of years to live, and now what should I be doing to fulfill the rest of my life? Well, in recent past, especially with the millennial generation, a lot of us, me included, have been suffering from something called the quarter life crisis. And that comes about around, or assuming that you're gonna live to 100 years old, which hopefully we'll all live to 100 years old, but that's neither here nor there. The quarter life crisis is considered for people around the age of, I say between 22, 27 years old. So we'll say early 20s to mid to late 20s. And that's a period of time where you're kind of emerging from the adolescence, all that excitement from the adolescence coming into your adulthood. Now, I think the problem with that is, the reason why so many people suffer from a quarter life crisis is because our generation especially was promised so much that when we were in high school, it was like, okay, you graduate from high school, you go off to college, you graduate from college, you get a job, you get the salary you want, you live happily ever after. However, many of us know that it's not that simple and it doesn't turn out that way. So when it doesn't turn out that way, a lot of us panic. Myself included, I went through that same period where I compared myself too much to what my peers were doing. So if I felt like I wasn't at the same level as my peers, or I wasn't working the job that I felt I should be working, or I wasn't making the salary that I felt like I should be working, I was devastated. I felt like my life was doomed. One thing that helped change my perception about the quarter life crisis and the way that I began to start surviving it was starting to actually live in the moment. Now, one of my favorite people of all times, one of my idols, one of my favorite philosophers of all time is Bruce Lee. He was awesome in his craft in martial arts, made some awesome martial arts movies, but he also was a great philosopher. And one of the quotes that stood out most to me when I really started to study his philosophies was when he said, remember, success is not a destination, it's a journey. Have faith in your ability and you will do just fine. And something about that, when I first read that, it just stuck with me, and it made me realize that exactly where I was right now, I needed to be focusing on what was going on at that moment and still have futuristic thinking and thinking about where I wanted to be. However, I needed to pay attention and enjoy more what was going on in that moment. Taking the lessons from the present, not being so worried about the future, not being so worried about the past, but taking those lessons from exactly where I was at that moment. And I know a lot of you have heard as well, you know, oftentimes people say where you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be. And I believe that to a certain extent. Don't get that mixed up with where you are right now is where you're supposed to stay. There's a big difference between the two. So those of you who might be suffering a quarter life crisis, or you have suffered the quarter life crisis, just remember that where you are right now at this moment in your life, it is exactly where you're supposed to be. But now it's up to you to dictate what your future is going to be and determine what your next move is going to be. So if you don't have that job that you want and it requires a certain amount of education, go and get that education. But do understand that you probably are going to have to jump over some hurdles to get to exactly where it is that you're trying to be. That's not to say that you're too far behind from where your peers are, or that you're not going to make it. It just says that's where you are in your current moment right now. Don't worry so much about what everyone else around you is doing, because that's just going to suck you into that quarter life crisis mentality. The quarter life crisis is really like a crossroads in your life, because it's what society says when you emerge into that age, or that era in your life, is supposed to set the tone for what the remainder of your life is going to be. So when you're 24, 25, 26, you might feel like, oh, I haven't found the love of my life yet, I'm gonna be single for the rest of my life, or I haven't gotten to the career that I wanted to get into yet, I'm never gonna get into there. Just stop that thinking right now. You have to survive the quarter life crisis by remembering that success is the journey and it's not a destination. Goals are meant to be strived for. You just keep striving for them, and while you're on your journey to success, pick and choose the different lessons that you encounter while you're going through that quarter life crisis and make them apply to your current state of being at that time, so that you can dictate your future to what you want it to be. Another period of time during my quarter life crisis was when I picked up this book right here. It's called Viktor Frankl, or it's by Viktor Frankl, and it's called Man's Search for Meaning. Now, I was kind of misled by the title here. Let me put it up to the screen one more time just in case you didn't catch it. I was kind of misled by the title because when I picked up this book, I was trying to get someone else to find the answers for me on where it was that I felt like I needed to be in my life. I wanted someone else to give me the answer on how to dictate my own future. And I'm glad I was actually misled by this book, because even though it didn't give me the necessary answer that I was looking for, I took a lot of wisdom out of this book. This guy right here was in the concentration camps during World War II, and he went through he lived in some very harsh conditions. I mean, talking about starving to death, seeing people die all the time, literally watching people waste away. And he took it upon himself to say, hey, I can make this situation what I want it to be. I can either emerge out of this situation with a positive attitude, or I can let this situation get the best of me and die. He even said in this book, the prisoner who loses faith in his future loses his future, or something. Actually, I'm actually going to look in the book. I don't want to misquote him. He's the prisoner who had lost faith in the future, his future was doomed. So listen to that again. The prisoner who has lost hope in the future, his future was doomed. Now remember, I said the people in this book, they were in a concentration camp. Now this guy, Viktor Frankl, he chose to make the best of the situation. Now, me personally, I can't even wrap my mind around the concept of the harsh conditions of living in a concentration, barely living in a concentration camp. For those of you who are up on world history and know about World War II and know about what the Germans did to the Jews in the concentration camps, you can just imagine what a horrific scene that was. But this guy chose to make his future still be bright. He found his purpose while he was going through, not even arguably, the toughest time of his life. And I know some of us who have suffered the quarter life crisis, or if you are suffering the quarter life crisis right now, you might feel like you're going through the toughest time in your life because your vision is cloudy. You can't see the big picture. So the important part to take away is, don't let your future be doomed because you doom your own future. I know that sounds simple, but it is just that simple. You have to think your way through this process, this time period in your life, to make your future what you want it to be. Remember, the future is how you view the future. So that is so relatable to what happened in this book and what Viktor Frankl did with his future during his time in the Jewish concentration camp. So just keep that in mind. Always remember, while you're going through this time period in your life, do not lose hope. Don't doom your own self, and just keep your eyes on the big picture. Keep going through all the small steps to make sure that the big picture is pretty. You don't want the big picture to be sloppy, because if you take choppy small steps, then the big picture is going to be ugly. You're going to look back and you're going to regret not taking your time to do it. Remembering that success is a journey, it's not a destination. Believe in yourself, have faith in yourself, and you will do just fine. Said by the finest, Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee, that's the man. I look up to him for a lot of stuff. I get so much inspiration and motivation from him. That's it for Viewology episode number 10. We'll see you next time on Viewology episode number 11. Keep viewing what you're viewing. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Please share these videos. We had an awesome turnout on social media today. A lot of people were sharing our videos. I really feel like a lot of people are starting to connect with these messages and feeling the authenticity of what we're talking about. So please continue to share this with people who you think might benefit from the messages in these. And also, if you have any questions and you want us to discuss additional topics, or if you feel like we missed something, if you have any criticism, whatever, we got thick skin around here at the Viewturistic family too, so you can say whatever you feel like you need to say. Don't forget to send us an email to our Gmail account at jacob.joshua8488@gmail.com. We'll see you next time. Peace out.
Subscribe.